We made it to the top.
Oh, we have to always wait for the next 200 under. How long could that be? What, a couple of days? A week tops, right? Right?
Oh. There we go. Where's that video? There it is. Yep, I knew at nighttime.
Reddit page called To Change My View. You go on there and you state an opinion that you firmly believe in, and you ask the world, hey, come and change my view on this. People will start commenting. They're going to try to convince you why your perspective is not the best. Sometimes it leads to healthy
It
discussions.
sounds like unpopular opinion, to be honest.
You ask the world, hey, come and change my view on this.
And I don't care about the log card thing. I don't care about that right now. That's not important.
They're commenting. They're going to try to convince you why your perspective is not the best. Sometimes it leads
Wait,
to healthy.
I gotta hear this clearly.
And you ask the world, hey, come and change my view on this. People will start commenting. They're going to try to convince you why your perspective is not the best. Sometimes it leads to healthy discussions. Other times it leads to insults where your mom is going to be called into the equation. A few interesting
Can't talk
things
right
to
now.
note is most people
But yeah,
on this
Darren and Double, I
forum
can see your messages. So I should have woke up earlier, but I had a nightmare that I saw a dog run over and I saw its insides. It was a terrible dream, and I wanted to document it because I want to let other dog owners to know that they got to put the dogs on leashes. It was a nightmare. So yeah, it was not a great dream, so to speak. I don't know what the other dream I had. I was just focusing on that one. It looked like it could be like a Rottweiler or something. I think it's a black male, I believe. And oh, it was not a good dream. I did not sleep well over it.
change their minds. They do not change their view. Apparently, there's even a few ways that you can tell if someone might be more or less open-minded to change their minds.
So why do they post in change my views?
No, mamas. Come on, up here.
Be validated.
Yep.
Why are you doing
I think they want to be validated.
that?
I think,
Like they want people to say, "Oh, you don't need to change your view."
yes, I do think like a strong group of people want to be on
Come
the
here.
side, but I think most of the arguments, you already know the other side, but
Ah,
you've just picked a side.
Got it.
So it's a passionate forum that you can browse on Reddit. There's a few things that you can tell if someone is going to change their mind or not. So for example, when the original poster uses the word we instead of I when discussing an opinion, which is obviously very separate from gender expression, but when they say things like, what we believe, well, we must not, we should believe, and this rather than, well, I thought, I believe, my perception of things. So referring to them as we plus a larger group of people, again, separate from gender expression, they're less likely to change their minds.
that's
Because they
interesting.
almost feel responsible for that whole large group's opinion. They feel like the representative of that group.
Right.
And if they waver and change their minds, what does that mean for the rest of the group?
Yeah.
There's also
Hush,
several
mamas.
language you can detect. This is also in real life. If you are talking to someone and they use words like, well, anybody, anyone, I'm certain, certainly, or there's nothing, don't even engage. They're not going to change their minds.
Oh,
On this forum, there's
interesting.
a lot of debates on politics, the economy, whether or not Epstein actually died in prison. I mean, pretty much anything that you can think of is on this Reddit.
So I can't type. It's the username is rotten mango, like the fruit, right? And then rotten. So yeah, my MacBook is something up. I can't talk right now.
On the show to catch a predator. Have you seen the show before?
Of course.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it briefly.
Yes. So this show was around for a few years back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's still relevant in pop culture is fascinating. But it was a show where a host, Chris Hansen, he would have all of these adult decoys. They're adults, but they pose
As
as
teen,
non-adults on the
basically
internet. They pose as
teenagers.
13-year-olds.
Or
They
that.
start
Yeah.
messaging strangers. They start messaging 50-year-old men on the internet. They say, hey, come meet me at this house. This safe house is then wired up for audio and video. Everything is recorded.
For the
They
FBI
step
to
into
catch
the
them.
house. They sit down in the kitchen thinking that they're going to engage in illegal activities, but instead, Chris Hansen pops out and is like, hi, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Have a seat.
That's crazy.
Then when they walk out the front door, the
It's
police-
amazing. I was like in elementary, going on middle school when this came out. And this is when we didn't have like how do I explain this? Dumbo and Darren, I please pardon me for all this. That nightmare must have messed up my brain big time. The thing is, we barely had Facebook at the time. We did have MySpace, right? Which my oldest brother used at the time. Okay, we didn't have Insta, we didn't have Twitter, or at least not yet. Okay, at least we're going at, well, Twitter didn't get released in 2006. And it's amazing how we basically had these types of instances back then. It's incredible.
Men, they're waiting outside, they arrest the people. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
dozens of threads have popped up over the years on Reddit, and it's a debate on whether that show is morally corrupt or not. So one would read, change my view. To Catch a Predator is a morally corrupt show. Many of these people's arguments include, let me be clear, I don't think that the people on the show should go unpunished. I think that they should. But also, the show just teaches predators to be more cautious with their crimes.
To be more smart, yeah, pretty much.
Actual victims at risk, not the decoys. Many activists have questioned whether or not the show creates a harmful narrative because most predators in real life are not strangers you meet on the internet. They're going to be people that the children trust. They also argue that the show is almost baiting the predators to commit a crime. I mean, they're lying, misdirecting, coercing the predators into falling for this trap. Another small point of contention being that the family members of the predators, which obviously this would happen even if the predator is just charged in the court system, but now they get blasted on TV. Everybody happened. The family members who likely did nothing wrong, they become these massive victims themselves. What other netizens argue? Change my view. To Catch a Predator is not morally wrong. There should be more shows like it. The main argument being, the people on the show turn up to that house with the intention of R-wording a child. All the show does is show them arrive, give an interview, and then being arrested. If those three events happened, why can't they be broadcasted? We can video record anyone on the public street. Why can't we do this with any other crime? Others with the same viewpoint argue the decoys used on the show were advertising themselves as minors on hookup chat rooms and classified ads. The men who were charged during the stings deserve exactly what they got. They know what they were going into. They also argue that public humiliation and the reputation that follows them after the show airs should be expected.
Yeah.
It's also safer for communities because it's so easy to find out, oh my God, isn't that the guy from To Catch a Predator? They argue, I cannot feel sorry for somebody who is ready and willing to do God knows what with a child. I mean,
you know, it's kind of ironic because I was planning on uploading a video, right, of this guy in my state that died by suicide because he thought it was okay to, I think, masturbate at a drive-thru of this. It's not like Hooters. It seems like it's like a Hooter. It's like a Starbucks Hooters. I forgot the name of it, right? Because in our state we have it. Because he was like half nude, and one of the female workers, right? Yeah, that's because she may dress as a sexy elephant. Does not give you the human right to sexually harass her. Okay, he ended up taking his own life, and people thinking, "Oh, you know what? This woman's to blame for posting it online." No, you might as well tell me that I am blamed just because I saw a black homeless man and doing that. Gross. Sorry, I'm trying to give an example. I'm not kidding. I literally have a video as proof when I was going to Dollar Tree that he wanted to masturbate. I'm glad I didn't saw his penis though. But I told him, hey, there could have been children around or adults like me that would be really disturbed. And obviously, well, he's homeless. So still, he should be held accountable, even though he's homeless. It's heartbreaking, but it's vile at the same time, right? And I try to go on my day and just snake on my way just to go to the store because I don't know. Okay, I can't do anything about it. And I told one of the workers about it. They were shocked, like, yeah, I could have called 911, but you know what? He could probably run away. I don't want to waste resources. And he's lucky that he didn't like strip down being nude. Otherwise, that'd be a much different story. This is in California, right? If you know what I mean by that, in certain parts that it's legal to be, I don't know why, naked in some streets. At least out here, it's not. So, you know, it's just, man, I just agree a long time now. I loved it. I loved it. I do like the show a lot. She does a great job doing like documentary you know, like commentary and showing like these like cool like you know, these like video clips off this topic.
Society needs to know who these creeps are. I have no sympathy whatsoever. They point to netizen experiences online of knowing someone who ended up on the show. One comment reads, "My friend dated someone who ended up just vanishing, disappearing. And then we eventually found out that he had been arrested for trying to sleep with an underage girl and having ropes and guns in his trunk." It wasn't until a few weeks later that we learned he was on the show, and it just kept unraveling. He had come to get drinks for one of my birthdays, and to be honest, he seemed completely normal. There was nothing that stood out to me as creepy or off. And my friend was a wreck afterwards, though. She's a smart girl too, and she didn't expect anything like that. I feel so
Are
bad.
you
for
even
her.
looking
She's
at my
blindsided.
blanket,
But
mama?
others
You're
think
getting
I
it
can
wet.
understand
Whatever.
that read. I was roommates with a person on the show for a bit. His name was Dave. Basically, he went to California visiting a friend, and the friend tells him, "Hey, I gotta make a detour to drop in on this girl that I've been chatting with online." He never mentions her age. And also, it's not like he could say no. Dave is already in the friend's car and the friend is driving. So immediately they get to the house. He regrets his decision when out comes Chris Hansen. And they only interview the friend. Since Dave just got to California, he has no idea who this person is. He never messaged the decoy, but it really sucks though, because the episodes are still available online. They don't blur his face. And actually, the whole episode that he's in has his face on the thumbnail.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are debates about whether the show is technically entrapment. Now, side note, entrapment typically involves law enforcement coercing you to commit a crime. But I guess in this case, since NBC is working with law enforcement, it could count. That's a huge point of contention. As well as, what if one of these people are innocent in some way? They argue that public humiliation is handed out before a trial. And theoretically, if NBC makes more money by catching predators on camera, would they be incentivized to make one seem like a predator even if they're not? Because they've invested time and resources and now they need an ROI, a return on investment. So these seem to be the main points of contentions that show up. But aside from morality, there are other issues with the show, like the fact that the interviews that are conducted on the show are not probably admissible in court because the predators are not read their rights. Debates aside, the show To Catch a Predator ends after 3 years. The show ends for multiple reasons. One being, someone dies on camera, a prosecutor. Someone who goes after criminals like the predators. His name is Bill Conrad. He's the next one to be caught on To Catch a Predator. He's actually quite good at his job as a prosecutor, but also he's messaging 13-year-old boys or who he thinks are 13-year-old boys on the side after work, asking insane questions about body parts.
Oh dear.
They try to lure him to a safe house to arrest him, but Bill, the prosecutor, ends up flaking on them. They, Dateline, the host, police officers, SWAT teams decide that they're just going to ambush Bill inside of his house. They ambush him inside his house, which, side note, a lot of people question, why did they ambush him inside his house? Why didn't they wait until he was at work, which is a safer place to ambush him? But that's where the moral argument is. To Catch a Predator cannot film inside his workplace. They can film probably inside his house.
That's right, because I'm guessing it's considered as a private place, right? Because your home, like, it's not really private unless, like, let's just say if I had like a fan that would want to visit my house, he needs to ask my permission if he wants to film in there, right? If that makes sense. Hell, I mean, I even asked those four boys if I could film them. You know, that's how generous I am because I don't want to, you know, be all bossy and whatnot.
Felt like the local police department working with Dateline, they've been in hot water for not being able to do their jobs for a while. So they come in guns a-blazing, SWAT team and everything. Regardless, hindsight is 2020. Whether it's the police presence, the SWAT team, or the fact that the TV cameras are shoved in his face while the police are forcing entry into his home, he ends up self-exiting.
Wow.
So
Gunshot wound to the head, which was all
basically, that's smart. What she mean by self-exiting is suicide. That's pretty smart. Self-exiting? I never heard of that term before. A lot of people say delete or some dumb term. Self-exiting is pretty smart. Self-exiting, yeah, like commit suicide. I don't like to say commit because that's like people think it's a crime. I just to say die by suicide.
on camera, obviously not aired, but caught on camera. According to the show's host, Chris Hansen, He quotes,
Oh, I see the police badge. It's taking place in Texas. I'm not sure what's the name of the city though, but I could see the Texas badge that you can see in the bottom left corner. So that gives it away.
CSA videos on his computer. He tried to get them off the hard drives and he couldn't, and the police were knocking on his door. He knew he would face 10 years in prison for each image.
Wow. A decade for each image? That's shocking. Wow.
And forensics, they found no illegal videos on his computer. But he was talking to whom he believed was a 13-year-old boy, which was an adult. Bill's sister ultimately files a wrongful death suit against NBC for over $100 million, and they settle for an undisclosed amount. So with that, the show officially ends. But there's been this new wave of influencers. They're called predator hunters.
Or predator poachers, so I've heard. Yeah. This could be really dangerous because imagine if you, it's like how, like what happened to me when I got falsely accused of shoplifting at Walmart. That could be dangerous, and it could be lifelong. It could be lifelong trauma. By the way, Dumble and Darren, if it's okay, you can. I just don't want you two to feel pressured. Feel free to share the URL of the other channel. Hopefully, we'll get like a couple new viewers in here. I'm just trying to focus on a topic here, because you know I just don't want to keep sitting at the screen and not doing much. Okay. The thing is that when I was there just to buy Shugu, this Mexican man, right? I still got the video, by the way, but I was just too anxious to get their faces on camera. I did my best, okay? Because I wasn't causing a scene. I was just being much how an adult should act, right? And I'll tell them you shouldn't be falsely accusing people of shoplifting, right? I just walked out. I tried to get their faces. I was really irritated. I mean, I did got one of their faces on the Walmart location, right, that I did a review on. So hold to Buddha that some people would see that. It's like, okay, he thinking that I was shoplifting just because a towel was coming out of my backpack. That's my towel though. Plus I can't afford another backpack. So it's kind of funny that he went ballistic over a towel. That's my towel. You know, like, do you have something more do you got to worry about? And these three men want to gang up on me. One that's Hispanic, two of them are white. It felt really embarrassed. I remember before I was seeing like a Jewish couple, right? I could tell they're Jewish. Not the Hasidic Jews. Like in my state, we have the ones that were the yarmulkes, right? Okay. And that's before I was leaving because I did. They're barking anything. Hush! Sorry, I meant to shut up my pups. And hush! I just don't know why they would falsely accuse you as such. Yes, I still feel guilty to this day that I put a spaghetti TV dinner in my backpack. Hush, mamas! That I paid for because my hands were full. And it's food that I paid for. You know, and you got people that will steal like a phone and they never get caught. You know, because I have OCD. I'm self-diagnosed, okay? People say, Deon, you should, well, roll pipe it. It means shut it, okay? If OCD is when you got constant thinking of something that you're like, it's hard to explain it, okay? OCD doesn't always mean that you're wash your hands constantly. No. Okay, it comes in different ways. For me personally, I don't know how to explain it. Okay, I don't know. All right, I can't explain it that well. Let me continue here.
There are live streamers that basically do the same exact thing of the show To Catch a Predator, but in real life, in real time. They lure people online with the promise of a great illegal time with a minor. They show up to the designated meeting spot, typically a motel or a parking lot, and the confrontation is live streamed.
That is crazy. Like, also very, very dangerous. And
that must be her husband.
Some netizens think it's bad because most jurisdictions might not take it seriously. Not that it's not serious, but there's so many legal implications on the influencer to the
With Clara, you can get old deals and spread.
Sorry, I got an ad of Shaq. What's his name? Shaq, right? So I gotta wait for this to pass. It's kind of funny. He's 7 foot tall, but he doesn't look like it in that ad. Weird. Anywho.
To the DA who is trying to take the case after the influencer catches a predator. The evidence could easily be thrown out by the judge. Gathered. I mean, others argue, yeah, well, the justice system doesn't do much to predators anyway, so at least their faces are out there. Many netizens believe it to be peak vigilante justice, which is kind of what starts unraveling in Wadsworth, Ohio. A 50-year-old man calls the police to report his car stolen. In fact, he says it was carjacked, that he was just driving in a parking lot one day when this man comes up to him and is like, hey, I need a ride to the hospital. I'm not feeling well. And then all of a sudden, he just opens the driver's seat door, slams him out of it, gets into the driver's side, and steals his car, jacks his car.
So, Grand Theft Auto, huh? I'm at 11:11 right now.
The police ask him, what parking lot were you in? They run the security cameras. That doesn't make sense because your car was not jacked by a random stranger. Your car was jacked by somebody that was in the passenger seat. So explain that. You were with the person that jacked your car. How do you say that you don't know who this person is if they're already in your car? He changes his whole story. He says, you know what? I was actually very embarrassed. I'm a 50-year-old man and I work at the local church. I met this guy on Grindr. We were going to get freaky in my car.
When I hear that logging sound, that's PTSD. Grindr, as I mentioned before, it's a gay hookup app, right? I thought it was a dating app when I first used it. Plus, I wasn't there for dating, you know, so I should try to discover myself. I was there for friendship, right? It's a dangerous app. I know there are men say, oh, I met my husband. Well, good for you. Other men, like me, have been raped. Okay? I'm sure she'll explain it. It basically has like a mask, right? I think the reason why they have that as a logo or as the symbol, right? It represents men that are discreet. Basically, there's two differences, right? There's down low and discreet. Discreet, I think they're the same at this point. It basically means that you're seen as straight, right? Or you don't want anyone to know that you're gay. That's what it means. And a lot of men will use that app just to hook up, right? So let's just say I met a boy on there a long time ago. I want to go into details that would never show his face, and he kind of pressured me to give him oral sex, right? Which I didn't want to do, but I want to talk about it. He did kind of feel me giving him oral sex without my knowledge. I was surprised that he didn't put it out online. Like, unless he was just using the flash because it was dark, I don't think he was filming me. I wasn't sure. I hope he wasn't. This is a long time ago, by the way. So I was like 19 or 20 when this happened. It was at an alley, right? Like where you drive in, at least throughout our neighborhood. I want to talk more about it. Anyway.
But then he snaps out of nowhere and just forces me out of the car and steals my car. I felt very embarrassed to tell you guys the truth, but that is what happened. The police are able to find CCTV footage that likely places a 17-year-old boy at the scene of the carjacking. This man is 50. This boy is 17. They bring him in. 17-year-old Gavin, his name is Gavin Ramsey.
Oh, I think he was 16 though, because it's in the title.
Very nervous when he comes into the interrogation room.
This is gonna be bad.
50,
this is his face.
The boy is 17. They bring him in. 17-year-old Gavin. His name is Gavin Ramsey. He looks very nervous.
Gavin Ramsey? Oh boy. I hope to boot us out Gordon's son.
The officer questioning him later reports, I observed that one of Gavin's hands was bleeding and that he had marks on both of his hands. He clenched his fingers.
Damn, he
was flexing his forearms.
Bill, I'll be terrified of him if I see a boy that age.
I observed that one of Gavin's
broad
hands was
daylight.
bleeding and that he had marks on both of his hands. He clenched his fingers to make.
I mean, 17 is a pretty developed age, so you can see why. But you know, I want to hear more about this.
He was flexing his forearms and neck muscles. I could see his pulse on his neck. He seems nervous and agitated. He's sitting there with his mom.
Damn, he looks really built, honestly. I'm sorry, but maybe it's because I'm so small myself. Like, golly. I'm surprised this boy is 17. Literally. You know, like people lie. Like at one that age, they could easily lie and be much older than they are. They do that a lot. So this is what he looks like. And wait a minute, his mother's wearing an autism T-shirt. Is he in a spectrum then? Well, at least his mother supports the autistic community. I can see that shirt that she's wearing.
And there's 2 police officers, one male officer that's sitting next to him, and one female officer that's sitting across from him that's asking all the questions. And his mom is encouraging him to come clean about everything.
At least what you get, what happens in the dark comes out in light. That's the way it works. You mess up, you get caught. You make bad choices.
You gotta pay for it.
So if there's something else, let's get it all out on the table so that we know what we're dealing with.
The officer looks at him. Have you ever used an app called Grindr? No.
How do you feel about gay people?
I'm not gay.
So he's homophobic, right? Oh, is he trying to plan on like assaulting a man just because he's gay? Well, at least these officers are taking it serious. Just because he's 17 is way more old enough to know what you're doing.
Later, Gavin asks his mom to leave the room so he can speak comfortably with the female detective alone. And he explains,
The car drifting,
I don't know why his mother reminds me of my mother for some
his
reason.
mom to leave the room so he can speak comfortably with the female detective.
Like the way
alone.
she's dressed.
And he explains,
the car drifting, okay, it was me, I'm gonna be honest about it, but the way that he explained it, that guy, not great. That grinder thing, yeah, I have been on it. And this guy was like the person that got me to attack me. And I told him, like, I was 17 and everything. And I wasn't planning on doing anything with him. It's not my style. I was just like, he's a 40-year-old man
Trying to get work for a 17-year-old.
I was just gonna rob him. Like, it's so messed up. But against what he was doing, I really think it is.
he's saying that he went on Grindr, met a middle-aged man, told him his real age, 17 years old. The middle-aged man doesn't care. He still wants to meet up. So
Okay, that's the middle-aged man's huge mistake. However, though, right? However, why on earth would he be using that when he's not of age? You got to be 18 in order to use it.
teach him a lesson, he decides, I'm going to meet up with him and rob the guy. I'm going to carjack him. He argues it's technically not the worst plan because what kind of middle-aged 50-year-old something man even willingly meets up with a 17-year-old to do intimate things with to begin with? If anyone deserves to be robbed, it's going to be him, right? I mean, I guess I can kind of see the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gavin explains that he got into the passenger seat of the old man's car. They park. The old man asks if he wants to move the party to the back seat. They both open the car doors. The old man gets out the driver's side, but instead of getting out the passenger side, Gavin slams the door shut, locks the doors, leaving the old man locked out of his own car, jumps into the driver's seat, and just starts driving around the parking lot. At first, he just wanted to mess with him. So he would drive. The old man would run up to the driver's side window, and then he'd be like, you, and then keep driving some more. And then the old man would run up to the driver's side window again and again. And eventually, the old man runs off to call the cops. Gavin describes that he drove the car to a nearby parking lot and abandoned it. He just went home and blocked the guy on Grindr. That's it.
Okay.
Really? He wasn't stealing the car. He just wanted to teach him a lesson.
Okay, fair.
You told them your age?
Yeah, I told him I was 17.
Are you gay?
No, that's not it. Like, I didn't have any plans to do anything. It was just for him getting back out in person, but trying to get with the child.
So what's like somebody tell them how
Over text.
Over text.
Was my hope. And that's why I decided to do that.
the text on your app?
Yeah.
You can't pull that back up.
No, that's deleted. I think I blocked the guy too, so that, like, deleted him completely, like, out of, I can't search him up for everything.
Why were you on that app?
Really, just for that reason, to find guys
How low of people, right?
That want to get with kids?
That want to do with kids or karma.
Really.
Interesting.
Like, if you're gonna do that, then I'm gonna rob.
You told them you were 17? What was his response to that?
He is.
Like, okay. He was down to meet.
So that's
Ahem.
Did he touch you at all?
No.
Did he ask you for any pictures?
You did send money.
Did anybody ask you for, what did he ask you pictures of?
My body.
Did he ask you for pictures of your penis?
Yeah.
The officer says, okay, well, I'm sure your mom's standing out there freaking out.
Yeah, she probably thinks I'm confessing to murder. She's been in here so long.
Yeah. Okay, well, how do you want to tell your mom? Do you want me to tell her? Do you want to tell her? I mean, she's going to have to know. So when Gavin's mom comes back into the room, the police fill her on and everything, and she's just scolding her son. Like, why are you even on an app like this? And Gavin's just shrugging. I don't know, Mom. I don't know why I do anything that I do.
That sounds all vigilante crazy to me. That's what that sounds like.
The officer is staring at Gavin and his mom, just analyzing them throughout this entire bizarre interaction of, I mean, I'm sure they typically don't get cases like this. And she explains, I'm sure you guys already know about all the going-ons in the neighborhood, about the elderly woman that was found murdered. You know, there are speculations that her corpse was used for necrophilic acts, but, you know, she was stuffed into the closet. Gavin's mom responds, oh my God, that was horrifying. They actually live 5 houses down from this 98-year-old woman that was recently murdered. So now they're just chit-chatting about local crime.
Oh my God, that was horrifying. That was horrifying. It was horrifying.
The 98-year-old was murdered and
essayed, her corpse was essayed
Sexually
and
assaulted.
stuffed into her own closet 5 houses down from Gavin and his mom.
Wow.
So now they're just chit-chatting. And the police ask, you notice any strange vehicles or anything? No, but the day it all unfolded, we didn't even know what was going on. And we have 2 dogs. I have a very small one, and she was in the kitchen with me. And she just kept looking at the back door and growling, and she never does that. I got like goosebumps. And so I just thought that's so unlike her. And I kept looking out, and the neighbor girl has they built a tree house on the ground. I kept thinking, God, what if somebody's in there? It just freaked me out because it's all wooden down there and it's all woods. But that was the only thing that was off. Yeah, it was that. Did you know the 98-year-old woman at all?
No, I was just to see her out like on a porch. That actually is going to cry. Like, how do you get to be 98 years old? Nobody lives to 98. It's so rare. And someone else thought that if that was okay. Like, how does that, I don't know, why does your life been like that?
Gavin is fidgeting with a tissue while his mom goes on and on about the 98-year-old woman. And the crazy thing is, I have stranger danger issues now. Unfortunately for Gavin's mother, it's not stranger danger that she should be worried about. Because whoever did this to Margaret is a lot closer than she thinks. And he might have something to do with the 98-year-old woman's murder, but also the local carjackings.
What a main. Oh, that's her little intro. That's cute.
We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Joyful Heart Foundation, whose mission is to transform society's response to SA, domestic violence, and CA, and support survivors' healings to end this violence forever. This episode's partnerships have made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. A few big disclaimers for today's case. This case is quite graphic compared to some of the more recent cases we've been covering. It involves graphic descriptions and mentions of SA towards some of the most vulnerable populations. So please watch this.
Basically, when she meant by vulnerable population, she meant by the elderly. Because basically, I'm thinking of let's just say if you rape an elderly or really assault any type of way an elderly person, you're going to get more punished than the average age adult, so to speak. It's like if you're basically harming a child, but they're an adult at the same time.
Your own discretion, and if it's ever too much, take a break, go outside, and I'll see you in the next one. Necrophilia is rare, they say. We hope.
So necrophilia is basically, I know this is straight up, right? It's when someone gets aroused by dead bodies. So basically, you practice penetrating a dead body, or just making out with it. I do not know why. People need to understand, it's a dead corpse. Not to mention with the diseases you could have of that. I don't get why they think it's okay to do that. I just don't understand.
A rare necrophilic is because most people who have necrophilic tendencies do not come forward with them. But perhaps it's common enough that some experts have created 10 different classifications of necrophiles. Class 1 necrophiles that do not see corpses, but they're just aroused by the fantasy of having intimate relations with one. They might engage in...
Basically, because it sucks that she has to censor these words because she would get demonetized. Class 1 is role players, which is people who get aroused when pretending their partner is dead during sexual activity.
Consensual adult activities where one partner pretends to be dead. Class 2, they will only commit necrophilia because of an emotional attachment. For example, in 2013, a wife was found sleeping next to her husband's decaying corpse for a year after he passed because she just can't let go of him. Then the classifications progressively get more severe from there, with class 9 being homicidal necrophiles, individuals who commit murder to obtain a corpse for sexual purposes. Then you have class 10, individuals who are only attracted to corpses and will continuously kill to obtain corpses and cannot perform sexually without a corpse.
Basically serial killers at this point.
One self-identifying necrophiliac goes onto Reddit to try and explain why they're necrophilic. And they write, the reason why I'm interested in dead bodies is because of their passivity, and maybe vulnerability.
What?
For some reason, the way they stay there alone makes me think that they're really lonely and I should take care of them. And they can't reject me or mock me.
But they're dead. So what's the damn point? It doesn't make any sense. They're dead. How does that work?
It's like a blank canvas and you can project all your feelings onto them. To which someone asked, why would you not be able to just use an intimate doll then?
Exactly. You know what? I want to share something because I go on Pornhub every now and then. There was this really hot Mexican boy, so to speak. He had a nice body. He had a nice happy trail. I still remember I love that video when he was kind of like pulling down his underwear and you could see like his stomach. Oh, so hot because he was like kind of stretching back, like he was arching his back on a chair, and I can hear like the fabric of his underwear. Oh, that's so hot. He later would, do videos of him having sex. They have them. I don't know where you could buy them though. It's like mannequins, but they're not mannequins. They're sex dolls, right? I don't know why necrophiliacs could just buy those instead and have all the sex and ejaculate as much as they want. It's that easy. Know over a dead body and know that you basically are a damn right serial killer for that matter.
If a real human is too much for you, then why not a doll? With a corpse, the part of fascination comes from the concept of death itself. Someone had a life and now it's ended, and this physical shell is the only proof of that. And I want to use the physical shell. Another netizen asks, fresh corpse or old corpse? Fresh one, though signs of death are appreciated. I also have fantasies about killing, specifically to get the corpse, but I'm not.
Wow, it reminds me of the Total Drama character, Scary Girl or Harley Quinn. She's probably necrophiliac. Wow, that makes total sense.
Those fantasies. Now, according to one small study, the most common occupations for necrophiles are hospital orderlies, morgue attendants, funeral home assistants, and cemetery employees. Now, to be clear, that does not mean that most or even a big group of those workers are necrophiliacs. They're just people doing the job. With the small population of necrophiliacs, obviously they're going to gravitate towards these jobs. Still very uncommon. But in Wadsworth, Ohio, when a 17-year-old boy, like a junior in high school, applies to work at the local funeral home around the same time that a 98-year-old woman, Margaret Douglas,
she seems so sweet too. Oh, her dog
is found stuffed into her closet, partially nude, with suspicions that necrophilia acts had taken place after her death, after her murder. You really have to wonder, are these connected? You are 3 times more likely to become a billionaire than get murdered at 98 years old. It's just not something that typically happens. But then why is 98-year-old Margaret missing? Before they find her murdered, she's considered missing. Police have to explore the idea that she wandered somewhere in a confused state, and if so, is she in danger? There's this massive manhunt for 98-year-old Margaret Douglas. That's what the Wadsworth police have to figure it out, and fast, because people in the community are starting to get antsy. They went through and checked all the neighbors' backyards, the sheds, nothing. Detectives start going door to door, and every single family on the street, neighbors of 98-year-old Margaret, are now potential suspects. The first door swings open. It's a couple, the Scotts. We knew Margaret, but we weren't really close with her. She's definitely with it, but every time we spoke with her, she would tell us that she was a different age, but she was strong enough to take her own trash out, and she would grab her mail and paper. Did you see any strange cars parked outside? No, we didn't. Sorry. The next neighbor, Eric. I mean, the last few days, I did think it was strange. Her porch light would normally be on, but it's been off the past few days, which I thought was weird. But I didn't see anything else. The next neighbor. I did see something. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe it's nothing. What is it? Well, sometimes I saw the Spectrum trucks in the area, but that's it. Okay, well, thanks for your time. The next neighbor, a burly-looking man, like a muscular dude, steps out into the porch. His arms are crossed. His energy is very hot.
Basically, when she meant about burly, you know, like the paper towel brand, that man that poses in that picture, that's what she meant by burly, if I recall.
The police feel like he's not going to be helpful. But they start asking him questions, and he oddly gets a little too chatty, very chatty. We've lived here for like 18 years.
A lumberjack.
Recently, less people are buying the homes, or the ones that are buying the homes are just converting the homes into these rentals. And look at that street down there. That one, that's a rental, that's a rental. I barely know my neighbors now. When we first moved in 18 years ago, I knew every single one of my neighbors, and now I don't know any single. And then the mailman, it was the same mailman for the past like years. I think like 15 years, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, it's a new mailman for the past 2 months, and now we got this guy, and I don't know who this guy is.
Wait, are these all like police?
I wonder how they add these.
They're
like
all in the Instagram.
these must be like those random clips that people pay for. I think like I don't know what they're called. Like they do like these interesting images just to explain the story. I wonder how they add those. I always wanted to do that because I love storytelling.
Reports. They're not taped, but all in the reports. Every single neighbor. Yeah.
Okay.
Every single one of them is documented. And the police are even saying, yeah, we thought this guy was not going to be helpful because his body language was closed off, arms are crossed. He steps out into the porch, and then he becomes, quote, very chatty. Very chatty. Too helpful, but ultimately nothing comes out of it, right? Next neighbor. She doesn't really have too many friends. She doesn't really attend church or join any of the other communities, but I never saw her as confused. She was very sharp even at her old age. 98, I don't think that she would have wandered anywhere unless she recently woke up and became confused. But I don't know if that happens like that. The next neighbor the police talk to ends up coming to them. A woman is waiting at the lobby of the police station. She can't even sit still. She seems very nervous. I walk my dog in that area. My mother, who is also around that age, but very elderly, she lives nearby, so this whole case hits closer to home for me. And I just keep thinking about Margaret out at night, freezing in the cold. Anyway, I thought I would just drive around hoping to find her myself, but I saw these two guys. I saw that one of them looked.
Damn it, my connection's unstable. Oh, I saw the little message thing. Okay, it's gone.
Remember that. They said it was foul play, that Margaret is a nice person that didn't deserve that. And I was like, where are they getting this information? Look, I watch a lot of cop shows, and I'm kind of into missing persons cases and stuff. I thought they were concerning. They were suspicious.
Testing to okay, good.
Take her account and continue with the investigation. But a day after Margaret is reported missing, it's clear that she did not wander anywhere. Howard, her nephew, Margaret's nephew, is searching Margaret's entire house for the second time. And there's a few things that Margaret would never leave the house with. Even in a state of confusion, she always brings her favorite coat in the colder months. And all year round, she wears her favorite shoes, her favorite sneakers. So the first time they searched the house, Howard's wife, Cindy, found Margaret's favorite coat. This is in April in Ohio, so it's still pretty cold outside. But maybe she was so confused that she didn't take the coat. Howard opens up that little closet again, and it's messier than usual. It looks like someone took all the clothes that were hanging and just pulled them down and then let them sit on the ground. Let them fall to the floor. He starts rummaging around on the floor, and he's like, what is that? He grabs it. It's cold. It's a vacuum handle. It's very messy in there. He's digging, and he comes across Margaret's favorite shoe. Then he finds the other shoe. Her favorite shoes are in here, and both of them are still attached to Margaret. She is dead. She has been strangled, stuffed into this tiny closet with her head on the ground and the rest of her body upwards, because it's a very small closet. Her underwear is completely torn, ripped off of her body. Her bra is pushed up, exposing her chest. And her nightgown is all the way open. So it's not even just murder. I mean, there seems to be a huge sexual element here. Whoever killed Margaret likely did it for reasons. The oddest piece of this evidence that they gather once they find Margaret's body is the main clue. A jar of blackberry jam.
What?
In the living room.
Basically, Smuckers.
The oddest piece of this evidence that they gather once they find Margaret's body is the main clue. A jar of blackberry jam that's left in the living room. And it looks used, but not for intended purposes, not for toast. The blackberry jam will have been used to commit acts of necrophilia. Testing would reveal male DNA inside the blackberry jam bottle.
Semen?
Because it was used as lubricant. The friend that calls to alert Margaret's family that Margaret is missing, he had stopped by to check up on her and says that she didn't answer the door. This guy's name is David. David had grown up near Margaret with Margaret and her late husband, and he actually morphed into a friend and a caretaker than just a fellow resident. Recently, he moved away, and now that Margaret is found murdered, he's not answering the police's phone calls. They can't get in contact with David, which is alarming because maybe he did something to her. So as authorities are going in and out of the house to look for any signs of foul play, they just keep seeing this guy lurking around, hands in his pockets watching them. I said, can we help you? Well, I used to live in this neighborhood and I just wanted to see what was going on. I guess also I'm concerned. I used to know Margaret and, I would visit a lot and sometimes help her around the house. And I bet all my fingerprints are all over in that house. I'm sorry, what was your name again? David? This is the guy that they're looking for, just lingering around the crime scene. What? They bring him into the police station and after a pretty lengthy interrogation as well as a DNA test, David is ruled out as a suspect. It appears that his care for Margaret was miscommunicated. The police realize, no, this guy is actually just a friend of Margaret's and he's trying to do his own little investigation, basically. So it's not David. Then what's the other motive? I mean, what motive does anybody have to kill a 98-year-old woman? Perhaps a will. She doesn't have kids, but maybe she has relatives that would financially benefit from her death.
Right.
Primarily a nephew, Howard, the one that found her body, and his mom.
If you have a pending criminal or family law case, call us today so we can start fighting for you.
Hey, interesting ad.
And his wife Cindy are pretty close to her, Howard and Cindy. But when authorities look into it, nobody has power of attorney over Margaret. She doesn't have a will. Financially speaking, nobody was going to benefit from her death. Cindy, Margaret's niece, tells investigators, Margaret bothered no one. That's why it's just so horrible. The detective is calmly watching her as she breaks down. I'm sorry. It's emotional because she wouldn't even harm a flea. Then they talk to Howard, the nephew, and he talks about finding Margaret's body, and he said it didn't register at first. The shoe he was looking for was attached to Margaret. He didn't even connect the dots. He says, I couldn't pick up the shoe, and I'm thinking, what's holding the shoe? So I took and I grabbed another piece of clothing. I threw it back. I've never seen this before in my life. I touched it. It was cold. It felt clammy. It felt like styrofoam to me. So I moved it. And then I moved another piece of clothing. And that's when I felt a part of her leg. And it felt like the same thing. Styrofoam, cold, clammy. And I'm thinking, why does she have styrofoam in here? What is this? Then it hit me. That's basically when we left the house in a hurry. I've never seen, I'm sure you guys deal with it all the time, but I've never. To me, it didn't look like flesh or skin. It's pretty obvious when you hear Howard and Cindy talk about Margaret that they would never hurt Margaret. Obviously, they are still ruled out by DNA, but there is an interesting clue left in the 911 call when Howard reports Margaret missing. He calls 911.
Yes, this is Howard Leisure. My aunt lives on 40th Street.
Okay.
And a friend of ours stopped over there yesterday to check on her, and she was nowhere to be found. We didn't know if you found anybody wandering.
No, we don't have any reports of anybody wandering.
We can't find her in the house anywhere. We went in the house and looked through the whole house, couldn't find her. We don't know where she's at. She's 98 years old.
And she lived there by herself?
She lives there by herself, yeah.
What's her name?
Margaret Douglas. And she never locks her house.
The same detectives are working another case, a string of carjackings in the area. That's why they're bringing in 17-year-old Gavin to tell them what happened to the man whose car he jacked after meeting up on Grindr. Gavin is sitting there sandwiched between the male cop and his mom, and the female cop is asking him the questions. And the female detective is still again saying, you know, we've got a lot going on in the neighborhood lately, and probably more than the general public is even aware of. More than one incident. Gavin's mom is nodding along. I'm sure. Wow. Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, we're trying to see if, you know, they're all related. Right. Later, the officers ask them what they think should happen to Margaret's killer, since the case is all anyone is talking about in the area right now, and they just live like 5 houses down.
What do you think should happen to somebody that does that?
The kill someone?
Kills a 98-year-old.
I don't know. I think isolate is the best way to go. That's how I look at things. That's what my mom was saying too. Is like what she thinks. 2 things that could be is like grandparent, nephew, like because my brother's friend, his dad works with some county, and he was saying that like her entire family was like in a will, and they all get like money and stuff. So he was saying like one of the grandkids or nephews or not even the family, but they could have done that to get money, or just some junkie that lost first, which that would not surprise.
The police will later ask Gavin's mom, when was the most recent time that your son got in trouble, Mom? Because Gavin's always in trouble with the law. Even at 16 years old, he had a felony.
He has not had any freedom.
Are you serious?
He literally goes to work and home because he makes bad choices. And we're just not, we don't want that for our kids. So he literally has no life. And he's snuck out before. I just recently moved his bedroom downstairs close to mine with his younger brother, because you know they sent cattle, so that I could keep, you know, it's terrible that I did it. And it still isn't doing enough. Because Morton probably was not asleep. It's been a few months since we had been.
Gavin admits that he does sneak out and rummage through cars here and there, but he never really takes anything of value. It's just he goes inside the car and looks. And the police ask, and you don't take anything? Not even change or anything?
Maybe like 50 times, but other than that, seriously nothing.
So he said he breaks into people's car to look,
Yes.
not to steal money.
No.
Well, that's even more scary.
It
Gavin's
is.
mom is super upset. She's rolling her eyes, turning to Abby. What would you do if someone did that to my car? You'd be upset. It's so upsetting and scary.
I understand that. It's really their own fault.
What did he just say?
Their
There's a
own.
massive global company that most of us have likely never heard of. It's called Celebrite. They're a digital forensics company that primarily works with law enforcement from around the world. It basically takes all the data from a phone, like the things you thought you deleted, and it helps officers get an idea of what you're doing. It can even pull location information from apps to try and get a general idea of your movements, as well as pattern recognition. You can type
It's a
in
sponsor.
word and it'll search the entire phone, going through search history, messages, videos, folders, everything, even deleted data, which gives the officers a comprehensive look at all the times this phone has talked about insurance fraud, for example. They can typically even pull PIN numbers and passwords, or even the pattern locks, like you know how some phones do the pattern locks?
Mhm.
They can pull those, which would be the perfect thing to use in Gavin's case. He told authorities that he told the 50-year-old man on Grindr that he was underage. The 50-year-old man still wanted to see him, that's why he carjacked him. But all those messages are deleted because he deleted the Grindr app and he doesn't remember which one of his fake emails he used to create his profile because he has 1,000 different emails for YouTube.
For YouTube.
He
Why?
says for creating different YouTube.
Doesn't make any
accounts.
sense.
It would greatly benefit Gavin if they can find all that, because at least they can present this information to the judge. He's still likely going to get charged with carjacking, but still.
That's right, because like it says in the title, that he wanted to document himself raping that poor elderly woman. Why upload it? Why even do that in the first place? I don't understand. Acknowledge it.
Now they need to get Gavin's mom's permission because he's underage. She's the parent. She's the one paying for the phone. And Gavin's mom tells authorities when she hands it the phone.
It's kind of funny because when I was 16, I had to pay for my own phone, right? So that's kind of ironic. Like I was responsible for my very first phone. It was a Samsung Stratosphere, and you know I had to pay my bill. It was like $150 a month back then. It was from Verizon, so that's interesting. But yet again, that money was from YouTube that I earned on Google AdSense. I worked hard to pay for that phone because I wanted to fit in like with the other kids. And, well, I had experience and I worked for it.
It is what it is. Whatever they find, I pray to God there's nothing too horrible in there. It will be worse than horrible. The day that Margaret goes missing, there's increased police presence in the area. They just found Margaret's body like a day later, but nobody knows that she's been killed or anything. To the public, there's just more police. That day, Gavin's mom texts him, "They're looking for someone." He responds, "Well, that's Wadsworth for you." Then he immediately Googles Wadsworth police reports. Margaret Douglas dead. Margaret Douglas, Wadsworth, Ohio. Body found in Wadsworth, Ohio. Latest update on Wadsworth murder. Then deletes the search
That
history.
is crazy.
At the time of the search, again, it's not public information that she passed away or that she was murdered. She's 98. One would assume that she was not murdered.
Yeah.
One quick search for passwords shows two interesting ones. The first being Gavin had set up a password to an account, and the password is "I like kids." That's
What?
great. Then the next
Wait, pardon?
two interesting ones. The first being Gavin had set up a password to an account, and the password is "I like kids."
It's kind of funny. He's underage and he was saying, oh, brother. Why can't you just say I like teens? Period. Oh, my God. I don't believe what I'm hearing.
So that's great. Then the next password of interest. Gavin had this locked folder on his phone filled with media files. So videos, pictures, live photos. It's an iPhone.
I don't like the
And
sounds
the
of
folder
this.
name is Dark. And the password to that is murder. Inside the folder, a bunch of media files. The first video is of Margaret asleep in her living room. And they're recording from inside the house. It's not through the window. She's laying on the couch. She's clearly alive. She briefly
So
moves
they
her
literally
hand
got footage of this.
asleep in her living room. And they're recording from inside the house. It's not through the window. She's laying on the couch.
That's her.
She's clearly alive. She briefly moves her hand to scratch her face.
Did you see the?
This one there is, it's in the case files that I received from the police department, but obviously the other ones are not.
Okay.
Then
Man, the police are amazing, you know, because she does a good job documenting, like, imagine, because she's doing such a great job that she's working with the police for all this. That's awesome. Ahem.
the live photo of Margaret lying down on her side. Her right eye is partially open, her mouth is open, and there is blood on her tongue and lips. She is not moving in the second long live photo. On her neck, there's a gloved hand holding onto her throat. She is dead. Then another live photo, this time of Margaret laying on her back. She has been posed in a full manner, and the description reads, in the picture, Margaret's nightgown is open and her bra is pushed up to her neck. The back of a clear plastic gloved left hand is seen pushing against the left side of her breast. Her mouth is open and shows fresh injuries to her face.
Like that, I
So
think.
someone is touching her chest.
Yeah.
And posing her fully. The next photo appears to focus on her right breast. Then the next video is about 16 seconds long, and it shows Gavin using Margaret's deceased hand with purple blackberry jam on there to pleasure his private parts. So he's
Oh boy, I don't know if I can watch this. Oh boy. Okay.
taking Margaret's
I'm
hand,
fine.
covering it in jelly, and then using it on his private area. And near the end of the 16-second video, he inserts a digit into Margaret's body parts.
What?
Then another photo, this time Margaret's position so that the focus of the photo is on her lower private parts. Then another, a plastic gloved hand is holding onto her bottom. After killing Margaret, Gavin stayed in her house from 2:09 a.m. to 4:10 a.m.
So in the middle of the night.
Just
So no one would know, right? So that he could say discreet, so to speak.
fully essay her corpse, but this
It's a lot to be
I
a
don't-
caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back.
Sorry, how to mute. Like, let me focus on the topic here. Okay, no offense for care.com, but I can't be off topic.
they would still be considered necrophilia. In most of the files in the folder, Margaret is either nuked or partially nuked, and you can see the gloves that Gavin is wearing that night. There is no video of him actually killing Margaret because it's likely he had to use both hands to strangle her. Medical evidence.
I got 5 euros
indicates
on
that
here.
It would have taken her several minutes to die. He killed someone that is 81 years older than him, a 98-year-old woman. She made it through 98 years, and it's the teenager down the street to engage in necrophilia acts and document the whole thing. Why?
Right,
The
right.
police rush to arrest Gavin in his house, and the officer asks him, "Did you know I'd be coming to see you after we got your phone?" I figured. As soon as I heard the knock on the door, if my boots were tied, I think I would have ran. Once they bring him into the same interrogation room, this time he's much more distraught. So his first interrogation was like a week before, and now he's brought back in because they go through his phone and
Okay,
it's
it's been
all
an hour.
connected.
Wait, so the first time interviewing, they didn't know what he did,
No.
but this time they came for that. Now, where was the mother when
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
When they came for him.
She was in the house. She knows it's pertaining to Margaret. She doesn't know what they found on his phone. And this interrogation, she's not in the room. She's in the lobby.
Okay.
So she has some
Some
suspicion.
clue. But I don't think she understood it's going to be necrophilia abuse of a corpse.
Right.
Maybe she is trying to justify some sort of crazy thing in her head.
Yeah.
And he's in the interrogation room. He can't even sit still. He's crying. He goes from sitting on the chair
Because
to
he
rocking
knows
back
what
and
he
forth
did.
to full on laying on the ground in a fetal position. The female detective comes up and puts her hand on his back to soothe him. It's an interrogation technique. I'm upset. That's what Gavin says.
Right.
I know. Telling me about it isn't going to give you much relief. It doesn't change the fact that I ruined my
Wait,
life.
if I recall, our interrogation is like a thing officers do so that they can get more proof, right? I mean, obviously, because, they can be aggressive because that's their job. They can be, but I'm not sure entirely.
He's on his back on the ground crying. We can't go back and change that, Gavin. I know. At this point, we just have to figure out what's going on with you, okay? And you didn't take anything from Margaret's house, right? Like I said before, it doesn't make a difference either way. I mean, what other crime could I commit that would really matter at this point? Which, side note, I do see people upset that the female detective is showing him so much quote-unquote grace.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in this case, she's just doing her job. She's getting a confession regardless of the evidence.
Yeah.
The confession is more likely to get a just verdict from the jury. To hear someone, especially a minor, say what they did, how they did it, and why they did it, that's almost always going to help the victim's case.
Right.
That's what the officer is trying to do.
Yeah.
During the interrogation.
Because the thing is, the reason why she's talking so slowly is because that way she will get more actual evidence that, you know what, he's not lying. He's really being honest because it's like he's trying to comfort her, right? Like if she was his mother or whatnot. That's what she meant.
Difficult to hear, and it's not particularly insightful. The only time Gavin gets emotional is, again, when he realizes what kind of trouble he's going to be in.
Right.
He tells authorities that he's never been inside Margaret's house except when he went to kill her. He thought he was going out that night to go through some unlocked cars, but instead, he saw Margaret sleeping through her home window. He tries her back door, it was unlocked. He says if it was locked, he wouldn't have gone in. He walks in, records her sleeping, but as he was getting closer, he tripped on the chair and she woke up screaming. He claims he didn't know what to do, but he saw Margaret reach for her phone, so he strangled her. And she knows him. She knows that's the kid 5 houses down. He killed her. And then he proceeded to stay for the next few hours committing acts of necrophilia. You see how none of that adds up? He says it's a crime of passion, but suddenly an opportunity to engage in some of the most depraved acts on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
They asked, have you talked to Margaret before? I mean, I think we discussed this a couple of times, but just this one time when I was 13 or 14, I was going to shovel driveways and stuff, where I was actually doing something good with my life.
So when she died, was she on the couch or on the floor? Floor. Were you on top of her then?
Kind of.
Like straddling her?
Yeah.
Did you use one hand or both? Did you squeeze it or push her against the floor or both?
Oh,
You said you don't remember if she was bleeding at that point.
whenever can I can think of bleeding is when I put my hand over her mouth.
So when you were holding her hand over her mouth, you might have pushed too hard and maybe made her nose bleed.
Yeah.
Were you in her house for a little while before you woke her up? Like I came up into the porch and I didn't even know what I was going to do. And I looked in the window and everything. I don't know. I felt like I was I just felt like going into the house. It was like the biggest adrenaline rush I could get, I guess. So then I tried the doorknob, and that just happened to be unlocked. He talks about after killing Margaret, he shoved Margaret's body into the closet all by himself, and quote, he's stronger than he looks.
So earlier you said that he applied to work at
A funeral home.
a funeral home. Was he working there already, or he applied?
He applied. But they did not hire him.
When did he apply? Before this killing or after?
Yes.
Before.
Before.
Okay, that says a lot, right?
A little while before. The police asked him, that night you were at Margaret's, have you drank or smoked anything, done any drugs that night? No, that I was actually sober that night. Which is another reason why I smoke and drink, because I can't handle myself when I'm sober. I can't comprehend. I don't even know how the word goes. My thoughts when I'm sober are dark. When I'm
underage drinking.
They're like good thoughts. Have you ever thought about harming anyone before or taking someone's life before? Not like planning it out, but like, oh, I'm so mad I could kill someone right now, like that kind of thing. But you never imagined yourself actually doing it. No, I could never envision myself.
So, in a trust of thought, but it did not turn out to be intrusive or intrusive.
I mean, I've wondered what killing someone would feel like, but I've also wondered what jumping off a building would feel like, so it's not like anything was premeditated. Gavin explains that he has thoughts of self-exiting, but he never could do it because it was too evil for his family. His mom would not be able to handle it. Gavin would even text his best friend, Braden, about these thoughts and feelings about life. The text would read, I've been doing some light research, and I'm not saying that I have this or whatever, but like this is an actual disorder, pretty much caused by wires in your brain being wired the wrong way, if that makes sense. Hopefully it's not like that, but I guess I don't really care if it is or not. I believe every person is made the way they are for a reason, whether they're as pure as God or as evil as
I don't believe that.
It's who they're supposed to be. I think it's like that, so that there's a balance between good and bad.
Prickly crud.
Well, what did he say? How is his brain wired? Did he say
He
that?
never describes, but he thinks he's pure evil. Gavin tells authorities that he spends every day getting high on weed, stimulants, drinking a fifth of alcohol per day. That's not 17 shots of hard liquor per day. That's a fifth.
Well, I know someone that drank a lot of alcohol. And yeah, even though they were abusive to me, they didn't murder anyone. So why is he bringing this up? Why, like, ugh. He's trying to use drugs as a pass to make himself innocent, right? That's not how it works. You decided to do drugs. Yes, they can be addicting. But the thing is, though, he knows what he was doing. Like, this boy, it's not like he's a damn infant. He's practically almost a grown man from this incident that happened.
Of alcohol. He says his biggest obsession, though, I will tell you the symptoms. You tell me what drugs this is. When this drug kicks in, it's a sense of euphoria. It almost feels like you have increased energy and strength. It feels like you could probably lift a car. If you get punched in the face, you might not even feel the pain until way later. You feel...
Well, that part is kind of, from my experience, accurate, but not the rest of it.
Practically invincible. You feel like a rush. Do you know what drug that is?
Crocodile?
Alcohol?
Adrenaline. Gavin says he's addicted to adrenaline.
What?
He says the adrenaline is the only thing that makes me feel like I'm even alive. Did you go into the house initially just to steal something? Honestly, all I did was I just wanted the adrenaline rush. Oh, just going into the house? Yeah, I think that's why I broke into cars and stuff. It's that risk factor. All I've ever done is take risks because that's the only thing that makes me feel... So that's your drug, adrenaline? Yeah, I don't know. Like, nothing feels wrong with me when I have adrenaline. It's like everything's all right. You feel alive, like there's meaning, right? I don't know about meaning, but it feels different. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
He's telling the cops that.
Yeah. Any bad stuff about you goes away? I guess. So your whole intention of going into the house was just the adrenaline of being in somebody's house? Yeah, I didn't want to rob the house. Okay, so it's just the sneaky thrill of, can I get into somebody's house and get out and get away with it?
So, trespassing. Pranksters on YouTube. Hint, hint.
Yeah, but if the door was locked, I would have just walked away. The whole breaking into the house was the adrenaline part. I think I didn't even have a grip on reality. Whenever I did that, I didn't even know whose house it was at first until... As for his motive, he claims his whole motive was adrenaline. And then Margaret woke up and he felt panicked. He had to kill her. But then why did he commit the acts of necrophilia? He says it's not even like that.
Is this like the first time we ever heard somebody talk about adrenaline?
I think so.
In this type of scenario?
Yes. In this scenario, yes. Typically, you will hear adrenaline in serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
It's
They're kind of addicted to that too.
Yes, I mean I think that a lot of people are addicted to adrenaline, and that's why you have people who are heavily invested in skydiving all the time, where they're chasing certain thrills. It's just varying degrees of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Like my addiction, which is nowhere near any of those, is walking a lot. But that I'm not sure that's considered as an addiction. Kind of is, because I mean I really want to move back to my apartment if I could, right? My apartment 260 if I could, and I literally would be a little restless unless I could just go walk into Dartree and just being out in nature. Like that's my addiction, which is a healthy one. Like there are a handful of addictions out there that are not awful. It depends. Like the reason why I say it's an addiction is because sometimes I will walk so much that I would even get myself blisters, but I like the thrill of it. I don't know why. It's a little hard to explain it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I just live in a really great neighborhood and I didn't take that for granted. Hell, I mean, I have an addiction for eating a lot of Tostitos chips. I know that's nowhere near any of this, but for a great matter, that is. So I get where she's coming from, literally.
This seems more of like the serial killer addiction to the thrill aspect.
Yeah.
I think it's tied to the fact that they're doing something that they shouldn't do, and they get off on that.
Mm.
But he's very angry when the acts of necrophilia are even brought up. He's angry about being accused of this whole crime committed for the purpose of SA, but he can't explain anything further. Like, he can't explain why it makes him so angry or anything else. And I don't know if this has anything to do with adrenaline, but it does later come out to the authorities that Gavin would chase his siblings around with knives when he was younger. He'd be like 10 years old.
Fred. All right, sorry about that. Are we seeing your messages? It sucks I'm only down. I'm only got like 3 views. Man, I was hoping we get some extra people on here. All right. Like he knew what he was doing and trying to use that for a pass tells you Gavin's a piece of shit. Exactly. Yeah, there are mild and healthy addictions like walking, for example, and there are unhealthy, severe addictions like alcohol. Yeah. Sorry about that. The stream froze. That's why I know like it did because it said that it was unstable. So it just sucks that my MacBook can barely function though. Damn, I was hoping we get some viewers on here. Ugh. Damn it, I cannot get people recommending it at all. After this video ends, I may do another one and switch over to the other. Well, I don't know yet. I don't know. And he does look older. He looks like it is in his 20s. Yeah. I agree with both of you for saying that. And most likely, there he probably lied about his age. Absolutely. Oh, you said, oh dear, the same time as I did, Dumbo? That's funny.
The officers already know what the purple stuff is. The officer pushes. I get it. There's like this whole piece of this. You don't understand why you do, okay? But the purple stuff, the whole actual piece. No?
Add.
Makes cookies taste like
Where is everyone else? Anyway.
The purple stuff was that jelly. I don't even know Where it came into play? Did you maybe use it